What is going on, nerds? Today I'm talking about the controversy behind the 2025 Pokemon World Championships. So people are saying that under the new system they just announced, it's going to be much harder to get their invite, and some people are furious. When in reality, I think the new system isn't as bad as it looks. So the biggest change to the new season is instead of having a certain amount of championship points you need to get your invite, such as 600 last season, instead it's the top number of players in each division. So in the US and Canada and Europe, that's the top 125 masters. That may seem really hard, but if you actually look at the placements, 125th place and people tied for it was 660 points last season when you needed 600. That's only 60 more, or a 10% increase in points required to make your placement of top 125, which isn't that bad. Now that is, of course, the first look at it. There's some other changes that also make it more difficult, but also some changes that make it easier. So let's get into those. So next change, you lowered the Cup and Challenge best finish limits, which is kind of tough because it definitely means it's harder to get good points from Cups and Challenges, which is harder, definitely requires you to travel to more regionals, which that definitely makes it harder. But there are some regional things they changed that make it easier. So with regionals, your placements are different. Pretty much, you get more points for higher placements. For instance, last season, top 512 got you 20 points. I get 6 top 512s, that's 120 points. Top 8 got you 100 points. Which means getting 6 top 512s will get me 120 points and more than making a top 8, despite one top 8 being much harder. But under the new system, 6 top 512s will get you 240 points, 40 each. Whereas one top 8 gets you 280. Which really incentivizes higher placements. If you place one high placement, it's better than 6 lower placements. Where last season, if you get 6 lower placements, it's better than 1 high placement. Which really shows that if you're skillful, you don't need to go to as many regionals and special events, as long as you place well in them because of the extra points they're giving. Internationals also had the pricing increase in a similar way, which is really helpful and definitely makes it so that you don't have to travel to quite as many events as long as you place well in them. Whereas last season, it was definitely more incentivized to travel to more events. They also made some other changes that are just really good for players. For instance, they increased the pack pricing. For instance, in tournaments with 1,025 to 2,048 players, which is most tournaments, some are bigger for sure, but in tournaments that big, you get top 28, 128, and you get a box. You get top 256, you get half a box. You see, in order to get a box, you have to get top 32. Being able to get top 128 and get a box is really, really nice. Definitely means that it's just easier to get the packs you're looking for, which is really cool. And that packs really do hold the value. Your entry for a tournament is $70. You go to that tournament, get a box for top 128, good retail for $140. So you just got your entry back. Or if you hold on to it for some time, because boxes do go up in value, you can make $1,000 in 20 years off that box. So giving more pack pricing is really nice. And additionally, they increased pack pricing, but did not decrease the other pricing. Originally, it was listed as a decrease in pricing, but that was actually a typo, and they fixed that. The pricing this season in cash is exactly the same as last season, and last season had some really good cash pricing. You know, getting top 32 in a regional and getting $1,000 is pretty nice. It said $750 earlier, but it's not $750. They just messed it up. So I'm very glad that I fixed that quickly, and it was just a typo. Because if it wasn't, people would be even angrier. World Championships still give really good pricing as well. And they also changed some other things. So, stipends. Stipends are for the top players, but in addition to money for the top players to travel to events, the top 32 players in each region also get priority registration, which is really nice. Essentially, it means that if you're in the top 32, you get to register before everyone else, because people who are having a good season should have a chance to go ahead and get invited tournaments, because tournaments fill up so fast. And it may seem like top 32 getting priority registration is taking slots away from other players, but top 32 is not that much compared to these events that have over 2,000 players. Or even over 1,000 players. That's a fraction. And it's really just good. If you're having a good season, you can continue to have a good season. Even if you don't have that much disposable income, you can get stipends, or you can get priority registration, so you don't just miss out on an event just because of bad luck and getting in there quick enough. Now, this is the one change that I'm not a fan of. They changed the number of rounds and the thresholds to make day 2. So now you have to go X2. For instance, if there's 8 rounds, you have to go 6-2. If there's 9 rounds, you have to go 7-2. So that's tough. Used to in most regionals, day 1 was 9 rounds to make day 2. But now day 1 is sometimes 8, sometimes 9. But when it was 9 rounds, you had to go 6-2-1. Which means you could get a tie and end up having a good record with a tie. So if you go 6-1, you get a tie, that can help you make day 2 with that tie because it counts towards your 19 match points required. Now if you get a tie, unless you get 2 more ties, it's not helping you get day 2 because it's only 1 match point and you need a multiple of 3. Also, they announced a bunch of regionals and people are acting like there are going to be less regionals. However, I'm not so sure there are going to be less regionals than last season. It seems like there are right now, but they've only announced the regionals for the first half of the season. Whereas the second half might have more, especially considering how few they announced in the US. And people had rumors that there were going to be less, but a lot of other rumors were wrong. So people rumoring that regionals were going to have lower best finish limits, and that didn't come true. Which definitely makes you think that there might just be just as many regionals, and you might not have problems traveling in them, which is nice. Also, ICs are in the same place, so it's nice. People know where they are, and they're pretty accessible areas. Even if I'm not a huge fan of New Orleans, it's still close to me, so it's great, and it's close to a lot of other people too. So these are good locations for people to travel to. Anyway, in conclusion, don't worry too much about your invite. Most people aren't even trying to go for their invite. Most people, the average player, won't be. But if you do gotta go for your invite, it's not as hard as you think it would be. I'll see y'all.